There are a lot of moving parts to being a working composer, from writing the music itself to being your own IT expert and wrangling plugins and software. And what about pitching to libraries and follow-ups and then contracts and taxes and deliverables? And that's to say nothing about trying to have a normal life outside of all this. I mean, it can be super overwhelming. So we have to think about project management. And so I thought it would be a really good idea to bring our resident expert on productivity and organization, community mentor, Mary Shaw, and we're going to talk about how we can bring some clarity to this chaos. All of that and more on episode 256 of the 52 Qs podcast. What is happening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the 52 Qs podcast, where each week we talk all about the world of production and library music. My name is Dave Croft, and not only am I a composer, I am also a professor of music production, and it is so good to be with you here today, whether you are watching on YouTube or listening to the audio on the go. Just know that I appreciate you, just like I appreciate our family and friends subscribers who are composers, just like you, looking to write better cues, but also find success in the sync music industry. And 52 Qs is there to help with workshops, Zoom feedback sessions, live streams, pitching to real music libraries, an amazing community of like-minded composers, and a ton more. If you want to join us, you can head over to 52qs.com. It is free to join the community, and subscription plans are quite reasonable. On today's podcast, I am so happy to be joined by our recent new mentor, community mentor here in the community, Mary Shaw, whose expertise is project management. And this is her yard. And I think we've talked about this on the podcast. We've talked about how the four mentors, Jeff Hargrove, Jeff LaPlante, Greg Fellman, and Mary Shaw, they each have kind of lanes in the community that are their own personal superpowers. And so Mary is, I got to tell you, Mary, you are one of the most detail-oriented people I've ever seen and ever met. I remember in the mastermind seeing your process. You showed me your notes, your referencing notes, and I was watching you show that because you have this kind of forensic way to do all this detail work. And I thought to myself, I know I'm the coach, right? I'm the mentor, you're the mentee, but there is something for me to learn here as well. So Mary in the community is going to be talking and helping people with process, with project management, with details, and with balancing all of the different moving parts that go into a career in production and library music. But first, Mary, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing, my dear?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this chat.
Oh, it is so good. This has been a long time in the making. Yeah. We've had the mentor program at 52 Qs on the burner, on the back burner, sometimes the front burner, sometimes just in a warming oven, that slow simmer.
All in good time, right?
Wow, it's been like a year and a half, I think.
At least.
We first kind of started kicking it. But you've been very patient. Really appreciate you. And here we are in 2026, and it's moving forward. And I don't know, it's in the universe's timing, or it's in the time when it needs to happen. And so really glad to have you. Before we do get in, Mary, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where your background is, where you're located, your own compositional goals and superpowers, and what brought you to 52 Qs in the first place.
Gosh, how long do we have? I've been a musician my entire life. Started playing guitar when I was 3. All I ever wanted to do was be a musician and performer, and started doing that in college. And I was about 18, I think, when I got my first paid gig, and that went on for about 12 years. And 7 of those years, I was actually on the road. I was performing at college campuses all over the U.S. just as a solo singer-songwriter. Just me and my guitar and a sound system, just going from place to place until I met my husband. And then I got tired of traveling. At one point, I was doing about 50,000 miles a year, just completely blew through 2 cars and 1 guitar.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was a wonderful way to see the country and to spend my 20s and to just be around that whole college vibe for a long time. But then as time went on, we got married, and musician wages were not going to buy a house. So my husband very politely asked one night, I think maybe you might get a job. And so things changed for us, and I found myself, I had a marketing degree from college, marketing and journalism. So I kind of fell back on that, and I wound up at an agency where I started helping them with new product launches and video productions. I actually got to write the music for a video that went national, which was really exciting. And then I got to score and this is back in the early 90s, I guess, mid 90s maybe. So VCR with empty time code and all this stuff. And I got to score this corporate video, and it was the coolest thing ever. I was like, wow, I wonder if I could do this. Then I don't have to travel. That'd be so neat. What a cool job that would be. So that kind of sparked my initial interest in where we are now, I guess, in production music. But I basically set all that aside because I fell into this job at a software company, basically as an assistant in the marketing department, helping with corporate events. But that led to an opening in the web design department. They needed a project manager. And I had been a project manager without realizing it for some years, just organizing and getting things together. This company was so great. They sent me to training. I had wonderful bosses. I'm a huge believer in mentorship because I've been blessed with several mentors in my career who've really opened doors for me and just shown me how to do things more efficiently and just with more life. And they sent me to some really cool training. And I wound up getting my PMP, which is fancy project manager, wonky speak for project management professional. So that led to my next job after I was at the software company for about 7 years. And then I went to a very large promotions agency where I worked on these huge websites for major big brands for a couple of years. And it was very exciting, but very, very tough. My daughter was I think she was a toddler back then. I was doing 78 hours a week, and it just wasn't sustainable.
Wow.
We had to pull back. So I was like, hey, how can I maybe take this job and maybe carve back a part of it? And so I could work full time. My daughter really needed me to come home. So it's 20 years ago in October. I left all that and started my own thing. And I basically carved out a part-time version of my full-time job, working with agency clients. And I'm outside of New York City. So I worked with agencies in New York City and Connecticut. And most recently, just since the whole pandemic thing, I've worked with people all over the world. And I've just been doing a consulting gig. It's been my day job, so to speak. Started in project management, but then morphed into what's called UX design. That's kind of like the architecture of a website.
And UX is like user experience, isn't that
user
kind
experience.
of what? Yeah.
Yeah. That's basically my day job now. And so I'm basically, I come in, I'm like the architect for the house. I work with the team to kind of capture that vision of what they want the site to be, do some research, do some things called site maps and wireframes, still use all that project management stuff to get those projects off the ground and out the door. Still working with, Fortune 100 clients and everything in between. But that's been going on for a long time. And then as I've gotten older, I kind of pulled that back. And then I met you. I think it was 2022 when we met. I had been lurking on the YouTube channel, and I think starting around 2021, I'd been a member of Taxi off and on. I discovered this whole sample library thing, right? I think it was like around 2018, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's an entire orchestra of there's all these British people in my laptop. Because the Spitfire Library was my first library.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? What does this mean? So I just clumsily was just in my spare time trying to figure out how Logic worked and had these visions of reigniting my music career, initially as a singer-songwriter, and I belonged to Taxi off and on forever, thinking that was the way to go and not knowing anything about production music and just completely messing that up. But luckily my day job was going well. And then as I got more comfortable with Logic, I found your community. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. I wonder if I could do this. And I think I joined the first mastermind. It was in 2022, right?
Yep.
And just learned so much. And then I was like, okay, I'm much older now, obviously. And I was starting to pull back in my daytime career. I'm like, I think this is something I could do, post-retirement. I think this is something that I would really enjoy a lot. And my goodness, there's other people like me who like this stuff. How cool is this? So that's what initially brought me into the 52 Qs community. And then I guess I was a regular member for a while, and then I joined the family 2 years ago, I think.
I think so. That sounds right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So just on the timeline, and then just started working on briefing room submissions. I mean, you have helped me so much. I mean, I didn't know diddly doodly. Well, I knew doodly, but not diddly. And so just with your help and mentorship, and then some other folks I've met along the way, specifically my collaborator, we've just been on this run for the last year and a half, just writing cues. They're getting signed. Some of them are getting placed. And it's been really, really fun and exciting. And now here we are. And this mentor thing is happening. That's the other piece of, I have been mentoring designers and creative professionals for 10 years as an adjunct to all this other stuff I've been doing. So I really, really enjoy that. I do coaching calls all the time with people. And I love the one-on-one interaction, as well as group calls and stuff. I do a group call. I did a group call this morning every couple of weeks. But it's just great to see people, get that aha moment when they understand something, and then they can make it their own and then take it off. So,
well, let me just say, I don't necessarily believe in just like accidental meetings and stuff. I believe that the universe kind of brings folks in and out of our lives, sometimes for a season, sometimes, just in traffic. And so I believe that the universe conspired in both of our favors here. And so when you agreed to be a mentor, I was ecstatic. And especially when, we talked about what you would be doing as a mentor and focusing on your skills as in project management and in balancing all of the details that go into essentially running a business, and so that could be a tough thing, especially if you are a third actor. I think doing something in the third act of your life, kind of returning to something maybe that was dormant. Because I think if I joined a composing community and they said, "Hey, Dave, we want you to give some drum set lessons," I would probably be like, "I don't think that's I don't think that's mine to do anymore." But really, really thrilled to have you on board. And speaking of one-on-one, here in the next few weeks, we're going to be launching one-on-one coaching with each of our 4 mentors at 52qs.com/coaching. And you'll be able to book a one-on-one with me, but also with Mary, specifically if you need help with balancing all these details and project management and all of that. But before you go do that, let's talk about project management because, and help me understand, because in my world, project management is basically just managing a to-do list. And the term project management seems really fancy for just take care of your stuff, man. So help me, educate me on how we should think about project management when it comes to writing cues and delivering albums and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. In my mind, project management is taking care of your stuff with intention. It's starting with a goal. It's like, what is my outcome? What do I want this thing to be? What is it? I mean, if it could be a cue, if it's an album, maybe it's, launching a community like 52 Qs. Basic to-do list, if you can do something in 2 minutes, you don't need a project manager. You don't need, if it's 2 minutes or less, just, beep, 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 and just check it off your list and you're out. But with what I'm doing anyway, with my experience with production music and just other stuff I've done in my career, when all those things start glomming together and they become this big thing, and I haven't taken the time to imagine like a big bucket of Legos. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you played Legos when you were a kid. They're all different colors.
Into high school.
Right? Imagine you have this big bucket of Legos, right? They're all different shapes, all different colors, all different sizes. You want to make something specific with them. You don't know where to start because it's just a big old mess. And so you have to dump them out on the floor and you have to try not to step on them. If you're a parent, you know what I mean. And just have to organize them. And so for me, a production music project, when I get a brief, I have to have some project management because I have to know, what's the deadline for this thing. Oftentimes I'm going to collaborate with my co-writer Avery. What's his availability? You know, he's not able to just dump. He's got other stuff going on. I have other stuff going on. What's my schedule look like? What does my family need? What's happening in the community? You know, what are my other commitments and how am I going to work this into what's already happening? That's the trick, right? Because when you get this great new opportunity, most of us lead very, very busy lives. And so imagine we're on a conveyor belt. You know, you ever seen that I Love Lucy episode?
Oh,
with the
yeah.
chocolates?
She's just stuffing the candies into her shirt and trying to eat. Yep. That might as well be my entire life, Mary. I gotta be honest with you.
It doesn't have to be. That's my point. And that's when you have a system in place that can help you integrate, that's when project management really shines.
Gotcha.
Because you have a way to get things on the conveyor belt without getting overwhelmed.
Is it as simple as, because I've talked about this on the podcast, I will say yes to an opportunity and because it's a good opportunity and I need to do it and I can do it and it's lucrative financially and, you know, it's good for my soul, right?
Sure.
And I just like, that's for future day. Future day will work that out. But is it as simple as like opening up your calendar and saying, okay, this task is going to take 3 hours and putting that into a block on the calendar? Because what I'm doing right now is I have kind of just blocks set aside in the calendar that are work time, but I don't assign specific tasks into the work. And often what will happen is I'll either get distracted or a bunch of other small things will kind of eat into that time. I mean, is it that simple, or is there some other Jedi mind trick that needs to happen in the mirror?
Well, I don't know if it's Jedi mind tricks, but that's a big part of it, is just blocking that time out. It's something that I do every week that I have. One of my mentors taught me. I've been doing it for 10 years now. It's called a clarity break. Every Friday at 9 a.m., I clear the decks, no distractions, no phone. My family knows not to disturb me. I come down here, shut the door, just me and a notebook and my calendar. And I just, first of all, I just kind of review the week. I'm like, okay, what was good? I call them hits and misses. What were my hits and my misses for the last week? Jot them down. This just takes a few minutes. And then I'll do a little, like maybe 10-minute reflection of what worked and didn't work during that week. And what's great about that is that just gets all the stuff out of my head, right? Just bleh, just gets it out. And then I can focus on what's coming up this week. What are the things I know about? Because we all have an opportunity. We can plan the things we know about. And that's like 60 to 80%, depending on what you do for a living or what your life is like. We don't know about all this other stuff that's coming at us, these opportunities. Yeah. But if we booked out our entire calendar 100%, there's no opportunity to factor those things in. So if you go ahead and say, okay, future Dave, no problem, but you're already booked at 110 capacity, 110% capacity, you're wrecked. You're going to be very frustrated and you're going to get overwhelmed. So I think part of it is just the reflection for me is so valuable of the prior week, looking ahead. I usually look ahead the next 2 weeks. And then over the course of the week, of course, stuff comes in. And I usually have what I call buffer time, and I book buffer blocks. It says buffer in my calendar so that I can incorporate those things if they show up. And if they don't, I have some slack. And then sometimes I just go to do stuff for fun if I have a buffer. I had a buffer before this call because, I wanted to make sure the headphones and everything worked. So had a half hour where I knew no one was going to ask me for anything because I was like, I'm in my office, the door's shut, everything's off. There's a middle ground.
What I'm hearing you say, let me say back to you what I think, what I'm hearing you say. There's a middle ground between just your calendar, other than appointments, anything that is optional as far as when you accomplish it. What I've been doing is just leaving a giant hole and then I just kind of mentally put them into place. But there's a middle ground between that and like militantly assigning every single task into the calendar, because I've tried that before. And I've even used some tools to help. Yeah. And then what ends up happening is there will be, we talk about boulders and how many rocks can you fit in your jar. And then there's a big old boulder that is now like on fire in an emergency, and then it blows up everything. Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is there's a middle ground between those approaches. I do not believe in back-to-back meetings. I don't believe in stacking all that stuff. You see like the hustle culture out there that does that.
Doesn't work for me. I don't recommend it to anybody. I just don't think it's sustainable. What I do believe in, though, is that idea of that rock. If you've seen the Stephen Covey video, it's like 20, 30 years old. The rock, you got to know what your rocks are. Those are those big goals. These things are going to take like 20 to 40 hours. Say you're looking at a quarter, like 3 months. And I may be getting into the project management weeds before I've explained what it is. But,
no, love it. Go for it.
But so I think of my business and my life in terms of 3-month-long quarters. So every 90 days. So even right now, I have specific goals I want to achieve in the next 90 days. And I've assigned myself 3 rocks. And a rock is generally like a 20 to 40 hour project. So those are the big things. And those rocks, they have to go in the bucket first, because if you put the sand in the bucket first, the rocks aren't all going to fit. Pebbles can go in, but if you've got 2 or 3 big rocks you want to get done, they have to get in the bucket first. So they have to get planned out, and they have to be accounted for in your calendar week by week, because weeks roll up into months, months roll up into the quarter. If you get your quarters figured out, you get 4 really cool quarters, boom, you've had a nice year. I mean, it's never going to work perfect. As a professional planner, if you will, you make all the plans you want. They always change. One of the biggest lessons I ever learned as a project manager when I was working on $1 million enterprise software rollouts and websites for all these big brands, we'd make these beautiful plans with these lovely Gantt charts and spreadsheets. It's lovely. And it always changed. So much of the job was learning to manage change and integrate that, the chocolate coming in onto the conveyor belt so that everybody didn't go crazy.
Yeah. So
much of it is just learning to take that new stuff and where can I plug it in so it fits and I don't go nuts,
All right. So thinking to the I Love Lucy clip, is the solution a slower conveyor belt? Is the solution a bigger shirt to tuck into? Is the solution having more hands on the conveyor belt, or is the solution having more places where the candy can go so it doesn't get all backed up?
I would say it can be a lot of those things. Probably the last one.
Yeah.
It's like, it goes back to, let's look at all these Legos. How much stuff do we have? You can't put 25 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag, which is what many people try to do when they get stretched, right? Oh, myself too.
Yeah.
This is all stuff I always have to remind myself of. It's just, we're humans. We're going to be like, oh, I can do that. But yeah, you can get more people to work in the factory. That way you can keep it at the current speed. If you double that staff, that doesn't always work though, because then the factory floor gets too crowded. And even though it's going faster, stuff falls off. I really think it's about intention at the beginning, and it's looking at the overall capacity.
But now unpack intention.
Intention.
Do you mean? I have an idea of like being intentional, but when we're talking about in this context, unpack that a little bit.
So it's, what's my outcome? What do I want? If I'm going to start this project, what do I want at the end? What's my vision of execution? How's that for wonky project management speak?
It could be, at the end of this, I want to have 10 cues for this album.
Okay,
or
perfect.
I've gotten a library, they've requested 15 cues by this time, and that's the intention, is to write 15 cues. Okay.
Your intention is to write 15 cues, right? How many can you do a week?
How many do I lie to myself and say I can do?
That's
or how
the trick,
many
right?
can I actually do?
Let's talk about actual.
Okay. In a vacuum, I could probably do 2 a week in a vacuum.
Okay.
Not in a vacuum, then that is closer to 1 a week.
Okay. So let's cut you a little bit of slack, and let's say you're either going to just do 12 and you'll deliver those in 3 months.
Okay, so less chocolate on the conveyor.
Less chocolate on the conveyor. Or if the library requires those 15 cues, then you're going to need at least 15 weeks. And I'm always a big fan of, like I said, buffer time in my schedule. Let's put 20% contingency on whatever your commitment is. So if you're committing to, let's keep the math easy, 10 weeks, then give yourself 2 weeks of extra buffer time. This might be a good segue to, there's just so many variables, right? Yeah. So there's the vacuum of doing those 15 cues. There's the 3 other libraries that want you to do stuff for them. You have a full-time job, I believe, right?
I basically 2 full-time jobs between the community and, of course, being a professor at Full Sail. Yeah.
So one thing that might be helpful for you is something we used to do at the agency called allocations. Here's more project management speak. I'm going to challenge you after this call to just get a piece of paper out and write down all the hours that you spend in a week doing this, that, and the other thing. Have you ever done a time audit?
I'm not sure I ever have. I just keep piling on, dude.
This could be great for a fun exercise for you and Shannon. Get your favorite beverage, and it's going to require you to shut down the phone, shut down the TV, all the stuff. Excuse me. And just get a piece of paper, and it's really good to do it for at least a week. If you could do it for 2 weeks, it would be even better. But just take a piece of paper, and as you go throughout your day, every 15 minutes, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? And after 2 weeks, you're going to have a list of all the stuff you did. And you're going to be like, oh my God, this needs, wow, how did I get all that done? And no wonder I'm so tired. But
no wonder I'm beating myself up because I'm the lie I'm telling myself is like, you're lazy, right?
No.
Or you are unproductive, or and this is assuming there's no imposter syndrome, there's no like empty creative well, this is assuming that everything that you are able and willing to write. But yeah, that's what I tell myself. And I know that's a lie. I know it's not true because, I see everything that I do and I see the amazing things going on in the community, the amazing things like here on the channel and the podcast and Full Sail and all that. But yeah, that audit sounds like a really good idea. It sounds a little intimidating and a little scary because it's like, do we have termites? I don't know. If I don't actually see them, I don't have to deal with it. But as soon as you call Orkin and the Orkin man shows up, then he's going to tell you've got some work to do.
Yeah, but just don't put any judgment on it. All you're looking for is information. That's another key if you want to succeed as a project manager. It's just information.
Yeah.
Don't put any judgment on any of this stuff. You just have to know what it is that you've got on your plate. And a lot of people, myself included, if I don't actively do this, you got to look at what's on your plate because it can easily pile up quickly. So what can often happen, so let's say you do that 2-week audit would be, if it's only a week, it's only a week, but a 2-week audit is ideal because there's all different things that can happen. Then you take some time and you look at that, and then you can start organizing things into different buckets. This is my writing time, for example. This is my 52 Qs community time. This is my teaching time. This is my barbecue time. This is my downtime, and nobody gets it.
My non-constructive downtime, right?
Yeah, totally. All valid. I'm sleeping here. You're not going to be waking up. You're not going to be auditing during your sleep. Let's not do that. But you'll have an idea of all the different buckets of your life, which can be very helpful because then you can prioritize them and think about, okay, of all these things, what's the most important thing? And one of the things I've tried to do the last several years is I am just trying to simplify, because how much of what we really want in life do we really have to go crazy doing? It's like, I'm a fan. Are you familiar with the 80-20 principle?
Oh, the Pareto principle. Yeah.
Yep. I try to 80-20 everything. So what 20% of your activities that you see on that audit are leading to 80% of your results? And what 80% are headaches that you can just let go of? I'll bet you would find a lot of stuff you can let go of.
Well, I mean, just what we're doing right now is kind of a product of that, at the end of last year and rethinking the podcast format. And by the way, thanks to everybody who's left comments. Hope you're enjoying the new format, which is much more focused towards audio delivery and having co-hosts, and love to hear your feedback. But Mary, this part of that initiative was sustainability. And the prep it was taking and kind of running out of ideas. I mean, there are always ideas, but running out of content and long form podcast topics that were just me, just talking to a camera for an hour, right? And then editing all of that. And so, already this is a product of that, the new podcast format.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, if you get burnt out, you cannot bring your best work to the people you care about, right? So we don't want to get burned out. And that was something that happened to me in the agency space. That was the big reason I had to quit. I was burnt out. I was doing 78-hour work weeks, and I was still relatively young. Actually, I think I was in my early 40s, and and my daughter was a toddler. It just couldn't happen. And so I just started reading a whole bunch of productivity stuff. There's a guy named David Allen, wrote a great book called Getting Things Done. Have you ever heard of it?
GTD, baby.
GTD was where it started for me. When I told you about my great bosses, one of my wonderful bosses, still use everything he taught me to this day. He got me into Getting Things Done. And then from there, I just read all the others. Building a Second Brain is it's the best book since that came out, I think. Tiago Forte's work is wonderful. Make Time, Essentialism. I could go on forever. These nerdy books that I just love. But to get back to, your what's the intention around project management, that's part of it, right? You have to have a place to put your stuff. I love Building a Second Brain, one of the best productivity books I've read in years. And I actually implemented the stuff from the book and highly recommend it.
Can you just define what that concept is from the book, what the second brain is?
Sure. It's all about, one of the things David Allen says is our brains are great for having ideas, but not for holding them. So, we are creative creatures. We can conceptualize, we solve problems, but you can't remember what time that appointment is at the dentist 2 weeks from now. So it's like having a place to store all that information that comes in. One of the, we have all these blessings with technology. It's always on, it's always available, but it's just endless. Waves and waves and waves of stuff is coming at us, a lot of which we don't need. And then when there's stuff we do need, it's like, where the heck is it? And, your inbox is full of 2,000 messages, and where are those 2 or 4 that I really need to get a hold of, right? So it's all about creating systems where you can identify those. It's about, getting that document, so I have like this system called Para. God, I'm getting so nerdy.
I promise you do not. If somebody has made it, 30 minutes into this episode, they're here for it. So you do not have to apologize. Anybody who's not interested has long clicked away.
You are my people.
That's right. That's right.
So Tiago Forte talks about this concept of Para. So it's in priority order. So there's projects, areas, resources, and archives. And so all of my folders on my computer are organized in those 4 things. So at any moment, if I have a current project I'm working on, I just go into my projects folder. Areas are like areas of my life. So like healthcare, finance, just kind of general stuff.
Right.
Resources are like any kind of PDF or like composer resources from your group that I run across. I just have a folder full of them on a hard drive. But I also have my email is arranged that way. Anything digital is arranged that way. So it's the same system no matter which digital tool I'm using. All right. So I go to my Dropbox, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hard drive, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's really, really useful because it's across the board, across your digital world. And then you don't have to think about it because I don't want to think about this stuff.
Right.
I want to be coming up with creative ideas. So it's just trying to find a place to put your Legos so that it's easy to find them when you need them. Not like when you're talking, but just when you need them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's in getting things done. Don't they call those open loops, I think?
Yes.
And that is one thing that I have really, really embraced. That and the idea of an inbox, and if it takes like less than 5 minutes, do it right away, that kind of thing. Although you have to be careful because if you have a lot of things floating around, you can 5-minute your way into like a couple of hours. But the idea of an open loop, I have really embraced so that you're not trying to keep in your headspace, in your short-term RAM, right?
Right.
You're not trying to keep in your headspace things that need to be done. And usually high-functioning people can do that for quite a while, right? Like this is a perfect example. It happened right before we recorded. I don't have written down anywhere that I need to change headphones when I have a co-host or if I have a guest on the podcast because these are closed back and I don't want bleed to get into the microphone.
Mhm.
That is not written down anywhere. I don't have any kind of like system checklist that says, okay, Dave, you're about to record, do this, this, and this. I just hope I remember. And today I remembered, but that is not always the case. And so that is an open loop that I need to figure out, a system.
Yeah.
And it just kind of shows you how it manifests in such innocuous little ways. And every time that happens, right, it just kind of chips away. Or let's think of it. It just takes a few CPU cycles, from your consciousness.
And it's simmering constantly, right?
Yeah.
It's a little piece of information that's in your RAM that you don't need to be in your RAM. So I'm going to challenge you to open your Apple. I do everything in Apple Notes now. I used to do stuff in a program called Evernote. I still use Notion for project management for big projects. But I'm looking at my Apple Note right here that told me to take out my hearing aids because I wear hearing aids. I had to use these. I haven't used these headphones in, 12 years. So last night I had to find them.
Oh man. Yeah. Because we I sent an email out to all the mentors. I'm like, okay, guys, let's make sure that we have a microphone and head. Let's be podcasters here.
Overlord.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something that's second nature to me,
right.
But not everybody is used to doing, voice work and all
right.
of that.
So I just created a little checklist so I didn't have to think about it. And made it easy. So I just came in. When I came down here, I'm just like, okay, I got to do this, and that. Bloop, 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 bloop. Didn't have to think. I don't want to think.
Did you create that checklist when you got that message from me that said we need all these kind of things happening?
I started it. I didn't complete it. I didn't complete it until last night when I was trying to, find my boom mic.
I didn't know any of this, man. All I know is we turned on the cameras and Mary's like, bam.
Yeah.
Eye contact into the lens of the camera, got the SM58, got the headphones. I was like, wow, okay, all right.
Well, you were here last night when I was like, where's the boom mic? And my husband runs up to the attic to find it. And he's like, okay,
you crushed it. You crushed it. But I think, you said when you got the message, that's when you started it. That is the parking lot idea, right? It's getting it out of, closing the open loop, getting it into that parking lot so that when you come back to it, you're not trying to fish it out of your RAM to try to execute it.
Because you want to capture an idea the moment you have it. The moment somebody sends it, the moment Dave sends the email that says, you got to do this, I start a note. The moment I get an idea for a production music track, I sing it into my iPhone. That moment. Because if you don't catch it then, it's gone.
Yep.
So there's that first step is capture, but later you have to organize it. And that's when I come back to it. And then what a lot of people don't want to do is they don't want to review it. And that's when I was talking about a clarity break earlier. That's what I do every Friday. I just look at everything I collected over the course of the week. And it just,
I tell you, man, you are goals, man. You are hashtag goals. And this is exactly why I knew you were the right person to bring into the community and kind of put you in, we're calling them yard, like this is your yard, right? And you're saying all these things that I'm getting that kind of, I think I'm getting inspired. Like, like the same way when I listen to, the Getting Things Done book or whatever. But before we wrap up here though, I want to talk about some tools.
Sure.
You mentioned already Apple Notes.
Mm-hmm.
I also use Notes. I use the Reminders app.
Yep.
And I'm very, very faithful with like titles, like just random titles will come at me, or I'll be watching TV and there'll be a weird turn of phrase. And I'm like, oh, that would be a good title. Like the ego has landed. Oh yeah, that's a good title. That is going to find a home. But I've also experimented with Asana, and Shannon and I, and mainly Shannon, we are making a big push using Notion and getting a lot of the 52 Qs internal, like briefing room procedures and everything. Can you speak to some of the tools and what are some best practices, especially if folks like me might be feeling a little intimidated by some of these intense tools? I mean, one of the reasons I stepped back from Asana is we paid for it. Like we went like, okay, all right, we're grown-ups. Dang it, we're going to pay for Asana. And it was so overwhelming. I'm like, I'm not trying to project manage a Lockheed Martin,
Yeah.
new missile contract. No, I just need to write an album. But talk about some of the tools.
There's so many of them. And I'm of the mind, get a great tool can make your life easier, but only if it serves you and not the other way around. So often people just get so into the tools that becomes a project unto itself, right? So
I need a project manager to manage my project management software.
Yeah, it sounds like that's what happened with Asana, right?
That's exactly what happened with Asana.
Well, think about what is the minimum viable amount of information you need. Do you really need to do all the fancy? The Notion's very powerful, but I don't use half of that stuff. I probably 80-20. I probably use 20% of Notion's features. I don't do a lot of automations. It's just a place that I can just plop stuff in, go look at it. It's super easy to find it. It's got a great search feature. So really, whatever it is you choose, definitely you want to have a search. I used to be all into folders and everything. I'm still into the para thing, the 1, 2, 3, 4 thing I talked about, but I used to have alphabetized folders going miles and miles with all sorts of different information. But that just slows me down. I don't even use folders anymore, really, because I depend, search has gotten so good on all of these apps.
It's true.
So searching, tagging is awesome. Apple Notes tags. I've recently, this year, just really since June, Apple Notes, reminders, and calendar. Those are my main drivers. They're free. Yay.
Yeah, I think that really kind of points to, it's not necessarily the tool, it's the approach. Because if you have an approach that works, then you can just wrap that around whatever tool you need. It's kind of like, a DAW. All DAWs kind of do the same thing, and so the DAW isn't going to drive your writing process. Sorry, I'm having an epiphany right now. It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
Like I would never approach Logic and say, okay, Logic's going to enable me to write better. No, I need to learn from within to write better and then find the tool that I can express what's already in. Mm-hmm. But I think I was like using Asana or Basecamp. We've used Basecamp before.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was kind of using its system to inform how I should be operating.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's very common. That's totally common.
Okay, so I'm in good company there. I'm not.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not an idiot for thinking that.
So Apple Notes for capturing the idea, right? So then you have your reminder then you got to put it in your calendar. Whatever, for me anyway, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't live. It's not, my family knows that if it doesn't make the list, it might as well not even exist.
Yeah, I share my calendar with like the house.
Yeah.
And so if I'm like in lecture or if we're doing a live stream or a client or whatever, then everybody in the house knows, not so they can like tiptoe and be quiet, but just so that if they need me or if they have, if they want to get in touch with me, then they know I'm unavailable.
But what's so cool about these tools, and whether it's Notion or whatever, is you'll get stuff in emails or I'll get things from messages. You can copy links to that in your Apple Notes. You can have reminders ping you, go wink, because nobody reminds me. In my family, I'm known as the gentle nag, but but nobody nags me. And so these reminders, I wouldn't remember anything if they weren't, blinking and, just yelling at me all the time to get stuff done. And I just do all sorts of, there's no one specific thing I do. It's like, I even use paper. I'm a nut because I want to get away from the distractions of the electronics. So when I get really busy, I'm pretty busy these days, I'll just put things on a little card and then write my schedule on the back of it. And that goes everywhere with me. Yep.
Shannon's the same way. She has like binders of organization or organizers and notes and everything. And we have every week, we have a 52 Qs kind of business meeting. And I'm there with my laptop, but she's there with her like pen and binder and doing her thing. I haven't gotten to that point mostly. And this is such a weird thing to say. I don't enjoy writing, like physically writing. My handwriting is terrible. It's a pain. I just like, So I don't enjoy the process of writing, and that's kind of a stumbling block. Maybe I need to get over it. I don't know.
No, everybody's different. But what I find is everything for me that weekly, my clarity break, it starts in a notebook. I start with pen and paper, and it gets back to that idea of intention. It forces me to slow down because, I can type like a maniac. I should get pulled over for typing as fast as I do. But it gets ahead of my thinking sometime. And what's nice about writing things down, it forces me to slow down, really think through, okay, what do I need to do? What needs to happen here? So I would encourage you, even if you don't pick up a pen and paper, just be okay with slowing down. Apple's my main stuff, but I use Notion for collaborating. And I use Notion for all the production music stuff that I have deliverables this weekend that I have to put together. Yep. So I have a Notion Kanban board. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with what that is. It's like
it's basically like the vertical buckets, right? That's when I was deep into my Asana world. That's how I would. That's how I managed the cues. So this is the state that they are in. They are done, and I would just physically, well, I guess not physically, but I would
you drag them over.
Yep, yeah. Move them over. And that was the only way that I was able to manage that first contract I got with Discovery Channel. They wanted 90 cues in a year, which sounds like a lot of time, but that's about 2 cues a week. That's
a lot.
Right? That's a lot on top of everything else.
Totally.
And so there was this moment in time, there was this 1 year where it's like, I felt like, like in Doctor Strange, where I was pushed out of my physical form and my astral projected body was like seeing, this is how the whole world works. And then I finished the contract and all came crashing down. That also kind of coincided with like me starting a Facebook group and the whole community. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a moment where I felt like all the pieces were coming together. It's kind of like, when you lose weight, I know how to eat right. It's just a matter of doing it and feeling like it's the end will justify the means, I think.
It's doing the thing, right?
Yep.
It's just, and that's what execution is all about. I think what I could leave you with is some more wonky project management terms.
Bring it on.
When I got my test, it was IPICAC, initiation, planning. Hello. Initiation, planning, execution, controlling, and closing. And when you think about that as a composer, it's initiation. It's like, where's the brief? What is this I'm going to be writing about? Why am I doing it? What's the purpose? That type of thing. That's your starting point, right? Then you have to put a plan around it. It's like, what's the deadline? When am I going to get this done? What are the instruments I need? What's my pre-production plan? What's my template? Do I need to collaborate? All that kind of stuff, right? Then there's execution. Got to do the thing. Just got to sit down and bang that cue out, right? Get it done to the best of your ability. Then it might change a little bit. You might get some new information, or you might have some new creative thought going into it. That's controlling, right? Because it's going to change a little bit. And then the closing out is getting it ready for delivery so that it's up to spec for whatever the library needs. So, there's wonky stuff for project management, but I think it applies directly to composing. And
say that acronym again.
IPECC. It's been about 20 years since I got tested on it. So, it stands for initiation, planning, execution, controlling, and closing. And from a composing standpoint, what I use it for is I'll do pre-production. That's where I'll get the brief, or if I don't have a brief, I'll what's the style I want to write with? What's defining the purpose, and what's the style, what's the genre, all that kind of stuff. And then I do a step 2 for me, which would be the planning. I create a sketch. I'll just create a very loose sketch in Logic. Oftentimes it's just a piano. It might be a bass line. If it's a hip hop track, we try to come up with what the initial hook is. Mm-hmm. But we're not getting hung up on sounds or anything at that point. We just want to get the actual, the scaffolding, if you will, of it. And then I'm a big fan. I use Logic, so I use Project Alternatives. Mm-hmm. So then we do a third one called Production. And that's when we really go into sound selection and really start putting the production together and get the full length of the track.
And that's the execution part.
That's the execution part, yeah. But it's not finalized at all because there's still this polish layer that needs to happen. We're mixing as we go pretty much, but we're not doing the final mix and master until later. And we're trying to separate it out into distinct phases that let us focus and just focus on what we need to do right then and there. And that way we don't get distracted. And that's worked really well for us for, I guess, however long. We've been working together for a year and a half now. I switched to working with Avery all of a sudden, but that's basically our process.
And so the control is the final mix and master, and then the final is closing. Is that the deliverables and just putting a button on the project and archiving the files and all of that?
Yep.
That's fantastic. You give, and I was actually over here taking notes. That's why I wanted you to say it again, because I'm taking notes. But I tell you what, Mary, I think you got a book in you, man. I think
geez.
I want to read a book on this kind of stuff, and I am positive that folks watching this or listening to this, I'm positive that they got a ton out of this. And you set the bar high for your first co-host, man. You set the bar really high, and so honored and happy to have you here in the community, not just because you're an awesome person, not just because you're a great composer, but because you bring this kind of level of thinking that I don't think everybody has, especially creatively minded people. But I absolutely resonate with this kind of stuff, and I'm so excited about how you're going to be helping folks in our community. And Mary, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Well, thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure. It's I feel very honored to be a part of this, and I just look forward to helping whoever I can in the community.
Yeah, and we're going to see you here in a couple of weeks. And like we mentioned earlier, be on the lookout at 52cues.com/coaching if you need some help specifically with project management and balancing all these things. And if you want to book a one-on-one session with Mary, you can do that. Head over to 52cues.com/coaching. And so be on the lookout for that. But that is going to do it for us today. I hope that you've had a fantastic week as we wrap up the first month of 2026. It is week 5. And this is episode 256 of the 52 Cues podcast. And just remember, friends, regardless of whatever's happening in the world, in your life, with software companies or anything, just remember that the universe has amazing plans just for you. We'll see you next time. Peace. The 52 Cues podcast is copyright 2026 818 Studios, all rights reserved. The music played on the podcast is copyright of their respective owners and is used with permission and for educational purposes only. For more information, including joining the community or becoming a member subscriber, head over to 52cues.com.